Muse are a band known for their experimental alternative rock sound. However, despite this, they aren't a band you would typically associate with odd time signatures. Most of Muse's songs are in 4/4 time, where 4 beats are counted in each bar. Another common time signature for songs is 3/4 or 6/8, where beats are counted in a group of 3 in every bar. Plenty of Muse songs exist using these time signatures, such as Blackout from Absolution. And Soldier's Poem from Black Holes and Revelations. Both of these songs are in 6/8 because the melody is 6 beats long and takes place over 2 bars. Take a Bow is an example of a song in 3/4. Here, the repeating melody has 2 distinct sections, a D major arpeggio and a G minor arpeggio. The chords arpeggiate 3 times in each section, so are divided into 2 bars of 3. So even though our sub-melodies are groups of 6, we still write it as 3/4. "6/8 is a common time signature for Muse songs. Ruled by Secrecy is in 6/8. Save Me is in 6/8. Falling Down is in 6/8. Houses burning down. Hate This and I'll Love You is in 6/8. As is Spiral Static, the Showbiz bonus track. And while mentioning early Muse songs, it would be remiss to not mention the song Rain from the Newton Abbey demo, which is also in 6/8. The song Overdue from the album Showbiz is in 4/4 time for most of the song, but in the chorus, it switches to 6/4. The last bar of 6/4 is extended by 2 beats using a bar of 2/4 to play a total of 8 beats before returning to 4/4. This makes the time signature change feel more natural. We have used 6/4 here because the melody is a complete phrase contained in what feels like an extended bar of 4. The truth is that the music can be notated in a variety of ways, as we will see, and I just write what is the easiest to read and understand for each song. The song Feeling Good, which Muse covered on Origin of Symmetry, is an example of a song in 12/8. This means the song can be counted in groups of 4 or groups of 3. The song could be written in 4/4 or 3/4, but 12/8 is the accurate time signature. To illustrate this, the metronome will first count the song using a pulse of 4 in the 12/8 time signature, and then a pulse of 3 in the 3/4 time signature. Twelve/8 is often used in notation when a song is in 4/4 time, but is written in triplets. The song that I cannot pronounce for algorithm reasons demonstrates this when the outro switches from quavers to triplets. Whilst there is no need to write this in anything other than 4/4, to illustrate the point we can rewrite this outro using the 12/8 time signature to remove all the triplets, which can often help with readability of the score. Another Muse song in 12/8 is Dig Down from Simulation Theory. We can see that the bass line is divided up into groups of 3 beats, yet we still count the song as 4 groups of 3 beats. There are also Muse songs that are in 4/4 that have interesting rhythms. Psycho is in 4/4 time, but is swung in triplet-based swing. We can hear that the start of each group of triplets is on the beat, but is led into by the root note. This creates a feeling of push and pull in the music, rather than a straight feel. Glorious is in 4/4 time, but is subdivided in an interesting way. Subdivisions are where within the bar of 4 beats, the notes have been grouped in a specific way to add up to the total number of beats in the bar. Looking at this bar, we can see it's in 4/4 time, so there should be 4 quarter notes in the bar, which is the equivalent to 8 eighth notes. We can see the music is grouped in groups of 3 in 16th notes. Adding up all these groups of 3 gives us 12 16th notes, so 6 eighth notes. Recalling that we need 8 eighth notes to complete the bar, we need 2 more eighth notes. However, 2 eighth notes are not perfectly divisible by groups of 3 in 16th notes, which would take us over the bar. So instead, the bar is completed using 2 eighth notes to take us up to our full 8. This is a different way of creating a push and pull in the music. We ease into the group of 3 rhythm, and then both slow down from 16th to 8th notes, but also feel like we're speeding up, because we're cramming those extra notes in where another full group of 3 was too big to fit. This subdivision may be familiar, as it is the subdivision used in the middle section of the globe list from Drones. And also from Coldplay's Clocks. Another Muse song to make use of interesting subdivisions is the song MK Ultra from The Resistance. This is more complicated, as the repeating pattern is extended over 8 bars instead of just 1, but the concept is similar to Glorious, in that each group must be comprised of 8 eighth notes, as we are in 4/4 time, and the main melody is primarily played in groups of 3. It is the placement of the extra notes which is what's unique about the song. When looking at the groups of notes, we can see from these two bars that the notes are played in groups of 3, repeating until 15 notes are played, and then an additional 4th note takes us up to our 16 notes and the full 2 bars. We can see the extra notes at the beginning of the 1st bar, the end of the 4th bar, the end of the 6th bar, and the end of the 8th bar. So even though we're in 4/4 time, the downbeat doesn't accentuate the start of the phrase we're hearing. To clearly hear the start of the phrases, we can rewrite the time signatures to be very difficult to read, but the metronome will give a clearer sound. Won't Stand Down from Will of the People has numerous unusual subdivisions. In the verse, 2 bass notes are heard, but instead of playing at the beginning of each bar, as we might expect, the 2 notes are actually played as the last beat of one bar and the first beat of the next bar, split across the bar line. The pre-chorus riff of Won't Stand Down adds up to 4 beats per bar. But the notes are divided into 3 distinct groups. The first 3 crotchets, the 16th notes centered around the root, which is really 2 distinct sections itself, and the last 4 notes. These make up 3, 4, and 1, which adds up to 8, but it gives us a rushing feeling at the end of the bar when we squeeze in the final beat. Starlight is in 4/4 time, but the piano melody takes place over 2 bars and is not evenly distributed, with the second phrase beginning an 8th note before the start of the second bar. This means we can rewrite the music as 1 bar of 7/8 and 1 bar of 9/8 to highlight the subdivisions more clearly. Assassin is in 4/4 time, but in the verse, extra bars of 2/4 are added. The Globalist employs a similar technique in the final section. This section is often written as alternating bars of 4/4 and 2/4. However, whilst this is perhaps easier to memorize, the notation shown here is more representative of what the music is doing. I have tried to put in time signatures that follow the bass line of the piano part, where the end of a bar is characterized by an 8th note and the start of each bar is a dotted crotchet. This helps gives us an idea of how many beats the melody is lasting for in each bar. The next track in the album, Drones, also has an alternating bar of 4/4 and 2/4 in the opening, potentially referencing The Globalist, but also referencing the music this song is based on, which is the piece Missa Pape Marcelli by Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina. known to switch between more complicated time signatures, often switching between 4/4 and 6/8. Unnatural selection switches from the main riff in 4/4 time into a swung B section in 6/8 time that uses triplet-based swing like in Psycho. Notice the ascending phrase leading into the time signature change. Another song from the Resistance to do this is the transition between United States of Eurasia and its outro, Collateral Damage, which is an altered version of Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. Here, the time signature change is built to using a glissando leading into a trill. All this is a chromatic ascending phrase much like what we saw in Unnatural Selection. The original versions also changed tempo, slowing down slightly so that we lose a sense of the tempo, making a time signature change and tempo change feel very natural. Space Dementia is in 4/4 time, but switches to 6/4 for the outro. The live versions also slow down before the time signature change, and not notated here because of space, there is also a fast, disorienting C major arpeggio. Although in the studio version there is no tempo change, only extended bars at the original tempo. Hoodoo is perhaps the most deceptively complicated song Muse have written. The song starts in 3/4 time, before switching to 4/4 in a different tempo. The song then returns to 3 after a trill, but this time in the new tempo. Before the Rachmaninoff-style outro of the song, the 6/8 we've been in for the majority of the song switches to a bar of 2/4 and then into 3/4 for the remainder of the song, changing tempos throughout. All of the time signatures and changes we've seen so far are present in the Exogenesis Symphony. Part 1, Overture, is in 6/8 for the entirety of the song. Part 2 starts in 3/4 and then transitions into 4/4 in the middle section of the song. Once this section ends, the song returns to 3/4 for the outro. and part 3, Redemption, is in 12/8 for the whole song. There are 2 more songs that I believe to be the most rhythmically complicated songs Muse have ever written. The first is Microcuts. Written in 4/4 time here, the repeating 6-bar verse idea does line up within all of the bars. However, notating the song like this means the metronome falls out of sync with both the melody and the bass at separate points. So we can rewrite the song so that the bass lines up with the start of every bar, like this. But in this 2/4 section here, we can hear that the melody is repeating a 3/4 melodic phrase, not a 2/4 one. But if we rewrite for the melody, we can see that the bass still falls out of sync. So there is no way to notate this song in a way that shows the time signatures of the melodic phrases and the bars where the bass plays. Essentially, we have a situation where the bass and the guitar are playing different time signatures for the verse, but reconverge at the end of the 6 bars. This is a concept that is central to understanding the song Animals from the second law. Firstly, the song is in 5/4, a time signature we are yet to encounter in this video. This is the first odd time signature we have seen in this video, and quite simply is where in every bar 5 beats are counted instead of 4. Because we are so used to hearing songs in groups of 4, hearing this extra beat can often make the song feel uneven and each measure feel unnaturally long. This is not the first time Muse have ever used 5/4. The B-side Agitated is in 4/4 time for most of the song and switches to 5/4 for the outro. In Agitated, the 5/4 does not feel very natural and purposefully feels extended and uneven. However, in Animals, the intention is quite different. A typical 5/4 groove has been used to make the odd time signature feel as natural as possible. Even though we are still counting 5 beats in the metronome, the music is playing a trick on us. When counting without the metronome, most people don't count 5 beats, but instead count 4 beats that are irregularly placed. This is because, especially for people who aren't musically trained, we are so used to hearing measures in 4 that our brain often fills in the gaps and tries to make the music make sense in an inaccurate way. This melody underpins the entire song. In the guitar solo later in the song, we get introduced to a few complicated ideas. Firstly, is that the solo is lasting for 4 measures before repeating a similar idea, and as we would expect, the first 3 measures are in 5/4, but the last bar has an extra added beat, to turn the final bar of 5/4 into a bar of 6/4. This is the same concept as adding an extra beat to a bar of 4/4 to turn it into a bar of 5/4. But to make it even more complicated, the drums are playing two different rhythms at the same time. We can see that the kick and the snare patterns repeat every bar, clearly playing a repeating 5/4 pattern, but the cymbals alternate between each bar, as if playing a repeating 4/4 pattern within the bars of 5/4. When two time signatures play at the same time, we call this a polymeter. In this case, this is a 5/4 polymeter. The cool thing about syncopating two different time signatures like this is that eventually there will come a point where the two time signatures both end at the same point when reaching a common multiple of beats. For 5 and 4, this lowest common multiple is 20. So 4 bars of 5/4 and 5 bars of 4/4. Looking at the music, the convergence point would be here, at the end of the 4th bar of 5/4. But remember, this is not a bar of 5/4 anymore. It's been extended to be a bar of 6/4. So what happens next is all of the instruments play an extra beat and then repeat the polymeter. So the full repeating pattern is a 5/4 polymeter with an extra beat at the end before repeating. After the solo, the song returns to 5/4 time for all instruments, but in the outro, the polymeter in the drums returns. This time it's a bit less complicated because there are no extra beats, but it does clearly show the polymeter alignment. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing and comment below your thoughts and ideas for future videos.